Now we're going to talk about part D, but first double check your part C. You should have gotten 2/15 cups of olive oil. For part D, you already made the soup for 5 people. So you already made the original recipe. You find out that 3 more people will also have soup. List how much more of each ingredient needs to be added to the soup. So you don't have to find the total amount of soup you're making. You have to figure out how much more you're going to put into the soup to feed those 3 more people. So I have to list all the ingredients again. So I'm going to use the scale factor method, but I don't want to have to keep scrolling back up here. So there's this really cool thing called the snip tool. You can search for it by just typing snip. And then what it does is it lets you take screen clippings. So I want to copy my recipe, and then I have to copy it, and then I'm going to paste it at the bottom. So now I have my recipe here. So I don't have to keep scrolling back to the top to check it. So I have a recipe that feeds 5 people, but now I need to figure out how much I'm going to need to add to feed 3 people. So to find my scale factor, I know that it's the original times scale factor is the new. So 5 times what? I'm going to start using a variable. I'm going to use F for scale factor, just so we can kind of start thinking a little bit more about this as algebra. So 5 times the scale factor is 3. And I need to figure out what that scale factor is. So I need to use inverse operations. The opposite, the inverse of multiply is divide. So I divide both sides by 5 to get that my scale factor is actually 3/5. Now I can use that scale factor to find each of my ingredients. And I'm going to zoom in to give myself more space to work. So to find my water, I will be multiplying 5 times 3/5. And remember, when we multiply whole numbers, we need to turn them into fractions by putting a 1 underneath them. And now I notice that I can actually cross simplify here because I can cancel out my 2 5s. So then I will get 3/1, which is 3. So I know that I'm going to make 3 cups of water. I'm going to need to add 3 cups of water, which if I look, it makes sense. If my original recipe for 5 people took 5 cups of water, my new recipe for 3 people takes 3 cups of water. Now I need to find my olive oil. So I have 1/3 of a cup of olive oil from my original recipe times 3/5 for my scale factor. And once again, I can cross simplify here. My 3's will cancel out, so I will get 1/5. So that means that I'm going to need 1/5 a cup of olive oil. Next, I'm looking at cloves of garlic. So I have 4 cloves times my scale factor of 3/5. And once again, I need to put a 1 under the 4 so that it is a fraction. I cannot cross simplify here because there's no common factors from 3 and 1, and there's no common factors with 4 and 5. So I multiply my numerators. 4 times 3 is 12. And then I multiply my denominators. 1 times 5 is 5. So I get 12/5 of a clove of garlic. But I really want to change that into a mixed number. And I'm going to zoom way in here so that I can do my mixed number work here without taking up too much space. So 5 goes into 12 2 times. 2 times 5 is 10. I subtract and I get 2. So that will be 2 2/5 cloves of garlic. So 2 2/5 is easier to understand than 12/5 cloves of garlic. And next is 1 1/2 large onions. So same thing. I need to multiply my 1 1/2 onions times 3/5. And you can actually, when you zoom in, you can also change the size of your line so that it's a little bit thinner. So I need to change my 1 1/2 into an improper fraction. I do 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3. So I have 3/2 times 3/5, my scale factor. There is nothing I can cross simplify, so I multiply 3 times 3 is 9, and 2 times 5 is 10, and that is not an improper fraction. So I know that I will need 9/10 of a large onion. Now on your own, see if you can figure out zucchini, green peppers, and tomatoes. How much more are you going to need to add of those 3 vegetables in order to feed 3 more people?